Hey everybody, it is May 4th, 2009. I'm Sonic Suns, and I'm here to talk to you about an issue which, to my mind, should be not much of an issue. It seems to me very open and shut, and yet there are a great many people with the opposite opinion of me, and I don't know why. And that issue is flag burning. Specifically, in the United States, the notion of burning or otherwise desecrating the American flag. Usually as a form of protest, of just saying we hate America or something like that. And perhaps you could also involve, tearing a flag to pieces and, I don't know, spitting on it or something, anything that's just nasty to the physical flag, or I suppose virtual computer flags might also count. We're going to get into vagueness about that in a little bit. But most often people just term it as flag burning, and that's what I'm going to say, because listing all the various ways you could, screw around with the flag is somewhat prohibitive, and burning seems to be the most common way to desecrate anyway. But at least that's the perception. I don't have any statistics on that. Anyway, so we have this little country called America, the United States of America. And if you ask us, why we think so highly of ourselves, we'll generally tell you that our freedoms and our rights are, probably the greatest things we can show you, or we're close to it, certainly. The foundation of both our country and the pride we have in our country. There's the whole narrative, and there was England, and they wouldn't give us representation and stuff, so we broke away, made our own country, our own laws, we had democracy, there was no monarchy anymore, and we had freedoms. We had, freedom of assembly, and freedom of religion, and freedoms regarding, firearms, and there's other debates about that, but there's still something of a freedom regarding that, one way or the other. There are freedoms from having, troops quartered in your house. Not that it comes up very often at all. And then there's the mechanisms of freedom that come with democracy, right, etc. And one of our most cherished freedoms, one of our most cherished rights, another way of putting it, is the right to free speech. You can say basically whatever the frick you want, right? Because we, Americans, became mature enough a few centuries ago, a couple centuries ago, whatever, to realize, hey, you know what? Just because someone says something you dislike doesn't mean you have to throw them in jail. Even if he says something completely ridiculous or spiteful or something, you can deal with that. You can say, okay, that's your opinion. I disagree. I'm going to go over here now and do my own thing. And besides, if people can freely communicate, and we churn through 100,000 crap ideas, eventually you find something which seemed, wrongful at first, but eventually people come to realize that that might be a good idea, For quite a while, there are people who thought, slavery was okay, but the free speech of people saying, no, wait, I think slavery is a bad thing, and being free to say that, and free to counter-argue, helped churn the ideas to eventually, after Civil War and such, get rid of that. A great many other things, practically everything else we've done, you can name big things like the women's right to vote, or more recently, there's currently a debate ongoing about gay marriage, and whether or not, one side or the other happens to be right on that issue. We're having a debate. Theoretically, we talk and we have opinions and debate and stuff, then we come up to better decisions than we would have otherwise, And there are a couple limits on free speech that people recognize. The old adage or whatever, that, okay, just because you have free speech does not mean you can yell fire in a crowded movie house or whatever, and everyone's stampeding out, and some guy gets trampled along the way, and yeah, you can't do that. You can't like a mobster, if he calls someone up, calls up a hitman and says, go kill Joe Schmo or whatever. Okay, those 4 words there, go kill Joe Schmo, those are not covered by free speech. That's murder, or conspiracy to commit murder, whatever the technical term may be. And, if you get your hands on some nuclear launch codes, you're not really allowed to transmit those, over the airwaves or something. Yeah, okay. There is no right which is absolutely perfect and paramount. Everything in the world you can think of has some even minor exception to it, even the right to free speech. But generally, we believe free speech is incredibly important, you know. And in generally, when it comes to free speech versus some other right, we tend to think that free speech is the thing, you know, just because it's so important. Because if we didn't have the proper exchange of ideas, we wouldn't have enough ideas, you know, moving around to properly uphold all of our other rights, right? And figure out which other rights we ought to uphold, and figure out which people we ought to vote for, and how the government ought to be run, and now there's free speech. So, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this seemed like an open and shut case to me. So, here we are, flag burning. Right. Now, make a point here. This is not about taking your neighbor's flag and burning it. That would be, theft and destruction of property. Those are clearly legitimate crimes, or trespassing, probably also, if you ran onto his porch and took the flag off and burned it. Yeah, we're not talking about that. And we're not talking about, I don't know, setting the flag on fire and then throwing it into a building and causing the whole building to burn down or something. Yeah, that would be arson. That would be, wrong. And we're all pretty much agreed on that. We're talking about the guy who, for whatever reason, is upset with America. And he takes a flag that he or she legally owns, takes into, I don't know, an area where otherwise burning stuff is okay, like outside, as opposed to burning it in, like, the middle of a room and clogging it with smoke and everyone, Like, no, I'm not talking about that, okay? I'm talking about, perfectly, particularly if it's on your own property even, or, on public property, there's right to protest with a certain degree. You can't, disrupt things too much, but generally, why do I have to throw in all these bits of description? Why do I have to be so specific? Well, because I get the sense of a lot of people being illogical on this issue, so I'm being clear. Okay, look. Person doesn't like America, gets a flag, which they legally own. They burn it, or deface it, in a way which is not in violation of any other law, like the whole arson type thing. And they do it explicitly as a method of protest, of expressing an idea. The idea being, screw you, America, or something like that. This is called free speech. Remember that? When the speech thing, and it's not just literal speech, it's the expression of ideas. And again, like, there are, there's certain rules for nuclear launch codes, but generally you can say whatever the frick you want. That ties well under freedom of religion, too. You can say, I believe in God, or I don't believe in God, or I believe in this sort of God, or I believe in this thing, whatever, Which, by the way, we're going to get into this. If people want to ban the burning of the flag because America is just so important that it can't be, criticized in this way, are we also tampering on freedom of religion there? I mean, are you allowed to criticize Almighty God? Because you'd think he'd be even more, important than America, theoretically. So then we can't criticize, we can't burn the flag, or anything to do with religion, maybe, or